Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. In the near future, overpopulation and climate change have brought global destruction to Earth. An organization known as the United Ranger Corps is formed to organize an evacuation of the planet, and humanity settles on a space colony called Nova Prime. Seeing that humans are now vulnerable, a race of aliens called the Skrell sends a group of Ursas to invade the planet. These Ursas are vicious predators created to kill humans, and although they are blind, they can hunt people by detecting the pheromones they secrete when they are scared. To stop the invasion, the Rangers fight the Ursas with their blades, and Prime Commander Cypher proves to be a hero when he learns to suppress his emotions. By showing no fear, a person becomes invisible to the Ursas, a technique known as ghosting. A few years after the war, Cypher's son, Kitai, is a cadet at the Ranger Academy because he wants to be like his father. Even during the simplest tests like running, he pushes himself beyond the others to prove he is special. However, although his test scores are great, he is not performing well in the field, and Kitai is not promoted to Ranger as he wanted. Later that night, when Cypher returns home from a mission, Kitai tells him he did not get the promotion. Instead of showing comfort to his son, Cypher remains cold as always and comments that Kitai must not have been ready because the commander knows what he is doing. Cypher always acts distantly with his family, as if he doesn't know how to turn off soldier mode, even demanding that Kitai always call him sir and giving him orders at the dinner table. After dinner, Cypher brings a gift for his wife Faya from the mission and tells her he will leave the next day for Ifado to train cadets. However, after this mission, he plans to retire and work with her in the administrative department. Faya is happy to hear this and points out that he needs to spend more time with Kitai, talk to him, and be less distant. Kitai needs a father, not a commanding officer. She believes Kitai has many insecurities because he blames himself for his sister Senchi's death and tries to connect with her by reading her favorite book, Moby Dick. With this in mind, Cypher approaches Kitai and tells him he will take him to Ifado. Sometime later, the crew prepares to leave, and Kitai notices a ranger with an amputated leg approaching his father to express his gratitude for saving him during the war with the Ursas and for becoming humanity's savior. As the journey begins, Kitai tries to connect with his father and tells him he is reading Moby Dick, but Cypher is not very talkative and keeps his answers short and cold. Then he tells Kitai he should sleep for the rest of the journey. Kitai pretends to obey, but once Cypher is asleep, he leaves his seat to explore the ship. He finds a mysterious area with warning signs but enters anyway, and the guard rangers immediately scold him for it. However, when they realize he is Cypher's son, they allow him to enter and see their cargo, discovering that they are transporting an Ursa, which will be used to teach cadets how to become invisible. The ranger challenges Kitai to touch the Ursa's shell and test his emotional control, but as Kitai approaches, he begins to have flashbacks of the night his sister died. An Ursa had attacked his home, and Senchi put Kitai inside a glass containment to keep the monster away from his scent. As Kitai is about to touch the shell, the Ursa senses his fear and growls at him, scaring him and making him retreat. Meanwhile, Cypher wakes up and feels some strange vibrations, so he uses his ring against the ship's wall to confirm that danger is approaching. He runs to tell the Rangers to be on full alert and orders Kitai to put on his lifesuit and strap into his seat. Then Cypher goes to the cockpit and informs the pilots they are heading towards an asteroid storm. Before they can correct their course, the ship begins to shake as it is hit by asteroids, causing it to lose an engine. Cypher orders the pilots to enter the nearest wormhole to travel to another point in the galaxy. The ship safely passes through the wormhole and appears near Earth, which the law says no one should return to due to its dangers. Cypher wants to go somewhere else, but the pilots explain that the ship has suffered too much damage, meaning they must land as soon as possible. As the ship approaches Earth's atmosphere, it begins to shake again, and Kitai panics, but his father calms him down. At that moment, the ship starts to disintegrate, and Cypher is carried away by the wind as Kitai passes out. A moment later, Kitai wakes up and discovers the ship has crashed. He leaves his seat to look for the others, but all the Rangers he finds are dead. Luckily, he finds Cypher and confirms he is still alive, so Kitai sits next to him and waits for him to wake up. When Cypher regains consciousness, Kitai explains that the ship's tail is gone, meaning the Ursa is also gone. Cypher guides Kitai to the cockpit to find the emergency beacon, but when he tries to use it, he discovers it is broken. Then, Kitai puts Cypher on a stretcher and takes him to the ship's main computer, where Cypher checks the inventory and confirms there is another emergency beacon in the ship's tail. Since both his legs are injured, Cypher gives Kitai the mission to find the tail, which the scanner indicates is about 100 kilometers away. Then Cypher gives Kitai his blade and 6 air-filtering inhaler vials that will help him breathe in Earth's hostile environment. He also informs him that the life suit and backpack have cameras, so Cypher will see everything Kitai sees. The boy needs to be very careful because everything on Earth has evolved to kill humans, which makes Kitai remember how he had to watch his sister be killed by an Ursa. Kitai asks Cypher about the Ursa they were transporting, and Cypher thinks it must have died in the crash, but it is safer to assume it is still out there. After taking one of the inhalers, Kitai leaves the ship and gets very nervous seeing all the bodies around. To calm him down, Cypher makes him kneel and reminds him to focus on the moment to overcome his fears. While climbing a cliff, he is startled by a spider on his hand, and when he reaches the top, he sees birds flying in the sky and cattle grazing in the fields. It is a stunning view, especially for someone who has always lived in space. At this moment, Cypher releases several observation probes to find the Ursa, and he reminds Kitai that the temperature drops significantly at night. To survive, he must find one of the many hotspots before nightfall. Then Cypher checks his own injuries and confirms that the bones in his leg are broken, making him consider taking some medicine to fight the pain. However, the label warns that the injection may make him drowsy and impair his vision, and this makes Cypher remember the time his daughter called him during the war. Senshi found an original copy of Moby Dick, which was very important because it was unknown where the real books were. Cypher acted very coldly in the face of her enthusiasm, and now he is beginning to regret it, so he decides not to take the medicine. Moments later, Kitai notices that his suit has turned black. Cypher explains that it is equipped with motion sensors, and the black color means there is a life form approaching him. Suddenly, a large baboon emerges from the bushes, and Cypher advises Kitai to stay still. However, Kitai prefers to throw a rock to try to scare it away, which causes a whole group of baboons to come out and start throwing rocks at Kitai. The boy starts running as fast as possible, and Cypher guides him toward the nearest river to prevent the baboons from following him. Kitai quickly crosses the river, but even though the baboons are no longer following him, he continues running with his blade in hand because he is very nervous and scared. Cypher has to shout at him to make him stop and kneel to calm down. At that moment, Cypher realizes there are toxins in Kitai's bloodstream and asks his son to check his body. Kitai discovers a leech on his hand and immediately removes it, but the toxin is still in his system. Cypher gives instructions for him to inject the antidote, but since he is beginning to lose feeling in his hands, Kitai has to force his body against the needle to make it penetrate and ends up passing out. A few hours later, Cypher realizes the temperature is dropping and forces Kitai to wake up to find a hotspot, which is 10 kilometers away. Kitai starts running as fast as he can, and while Cypher watches his son, he hears the computer inform him that he needs an arterial shunt to treat his leg. Once again, Cypher refuses to take the medicine and undergoes the procedure while enduring the pain. While working, he thinks about Senshi's 19th birthday celebration, which he had to watch through a screen because he was on a mission. Senshi asked him to blow out the candles on her cake, and Cypher only agreed after much insistence. The candles went out because the younger Kitai blew them out for him. When Kitai finally reaches the hotspot, he checks his equipment and discovers that 2 inhalers are broken, but lies to his father and says he has them all. Cypher sees a reaction on the screen that may indicate a lie, but says nothing more. Kitai takes a vial and hides under a tree as it starts to rain, then takes the opportunity to ask his father how he managed to become invisible during the war. Cypher tells him that an Ursa once stabbed him in the shoulder with its spur, and during the fight, they fell into the river. The Ursa tried to drown him, but when Cypher accepted his death, the spur came out because the Ursa could no longer find him. Cypher had understood that fear was not real, even if anger existed, it was just something in people's thoughts about the future. The next morning, Cypher sends Kitai to the waterfall because the probes found some interesting readings. On the way, Kitai sees a pile of dead monkeys, evidence of a greater danger. As soon as Kitai reaches the waterfall at the top of a mountain, Cypher has him check his inventory, and Kitai tries to lie again about the inhalers. Cypher calls out his lie and does some calculations that indicate Kitai will not be able to complete the mission without the inhalers, so he orders him to abort the mission. Kitai starts thinking about how he had to watch Senshi die and refuses to do the same with his father, so he tells Cypher he will not be a coward again. In fact, he thinks Cypher is the coward because he was not home to protect his family when the Ursa attacked. Cypher ignores the truth and insists that Kitai must turn back, but Kitai does not obey and jumps off the mountain, using his suit to glide through the air. At that moment, a huge condor appears and starts chasing him, so Kitai tries to hide behind the waterfalls. However, the condor is fast, and as soon as Kitai comes out, the bird attacks him. Kitai passes out, and Cypher loses all communication with him. Moments later, Cypher wakes up in the condor's nest with its chicks. He tries to leave silently, but suddenly several lions appear, trying to get in to eat. The condor attacks the pride, but many of them swerve and continue trying to get in. Kitai manages to throw one lion out, and the condor grabs another, but when a third lion enters, Kitai has no choice but to use his blade. He doesn't want to fight, so instead, he cuts a hole in the floor to make the lion fall through. After all the lions are gone, Kitai leaves the nest, and he is devastated to see the condor mourning the death of all its chicks. Later, Kitai tries to contact his father, only to find his communicator is broken. Back at the ship, Cypher receives images from his drone showing the bodies of the rangers hanging from a tree, meaning the Ursa is loose. Cypher decides to record a message for his wife, simply saying that he lost their son. Meanwhile, Kitai continues traveling through the forest and hides inside a cave to avoid the cold of the night. Inside, he finds drawings left by cavemen and many dangerous snakes he narrowly avoids. He makes some calculations about the distance left and his inventory. The odds are not good, but he needs to try anyway. The next morning, Kitai leaves the cave and realizes the condor is following him. Thinking it wants to attack, Kitai starts running and soon needs to use his last inhaler. Then Kitai builds a small raft to navigate the river. When he takes a nap to rest, he dreams of Senshi appearing by his side, and he tries to tell her that on the day she died, he almost left the containment to help her. Senshi doesn't believe him but doesn't care because she thinks he did the right thing by saving himself. She also thinks Cypher is mad at himself for what happened. Kitai says he has been reading Moby Dick, so he recites some passages to prove it. However, the vision of Senshi screams at him to wake up, and soon Kitai opens his eyes to find the raft has reached dry land. The temperature is starting to drop, so Kitai runs to find a hot spot, but he is not fast enough and passes out on the ground as the plants around him freeze. Kitai thinks he is going to die, but when he wakes up in the morning, he discovers something on top of him that kept him warm. It is the condor, which died to save him as thanks for fighting for its chicks. After thanking the creature, Kitai continues his journey. It is getting harder and harder to breathe, but finding a piece of the ship on the ground inspires him to keep going. Moments later, Kitai finally finds the ship's tail and immediately gets his hands on more inhalers and a new blade. Then he investigates the area and discovers that the Ursa's shell is open, confirming that the monster is gone. Back on the ship, Cypher is dreaming of young Kitai handing him his own blade. He is suddenly awakened by Kitai's voice because he found a communicator and the emergency beacon in the ship's tail. Cypher tries to talk to him, but Kitai cannot hear him because he is in the black zone. Kitai doesn't know this and tries to use the emergency beacon anyway, but it doesn't work. Frustrated and desperate, Kitai starts to throw a tantrum but soon remembers his father's advice and kneels to calm down. Kitai realizes there is interference in the area and that climbing the nearby volcano should allow him to activate the beacon without obstructions. On his way to the volcano, Kitai finds the body of a soldier, realizing the Ursa left it there to scare him and trigger his fear pheromones. Kitai does his best to ignore it and keeps moving forward until he reaches the base of the volcano, where he tries to activate the beacon again and fails. Cypher sees the Ursa on the scanner and hopes his son acts quickly before it finds him. Then, Kitai enters a cave to try to find a way to the top of the volcano. Inside, he finds the Ursa waiting for him, and the monster attacks immediately, only to get stuck under a pile of rocks in the process. Kitai starts running while the Ursa frees itself and chases him, so the boy decides to hide in a pool of water. Back on the ship, the computer begins to fail, and Cypher loses access to medical treatment, making him start to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, Kitai swims toward a light source that allows him to emerge in a well. When he starts to climb it to reach the top of the volcano, the Ursa suddenly jumps out of the water and grabs his foot. Kitai kicks the beast to make it fall back into the water and then finishes climbing the well to get out. Immediately, Kitai tries to activate the interstellar beacon, but the Ursa returns and knocks him down, slamming him into the rocks and making him drop the device. As Kitai writhes on the ground in pain, he remembers the day Senshi protected him and all the advice Cypher gave him, allowing Kitai to finally focus and overcome his fear, reaching the ghosting technique, and becoming invisible to the creature's senses. The creature loses his trail, and Kitai takes advantage of the confusion to attack it with his blade. Since the beast cannot see him and defend itself, it takes only a few precise strikes from Kitai, using the blades on his staff, to finally kill the Ursa. All this is seen by Cypher before he loses consciousness. Afterward, Kitai finally fires the interstellar beacon, and fortunately, in a few hours, the rescue team arrives to take them home. Kitai is worried about his father, but when he checks, he confirms he is okay. Cypher forces his aching body to stand up to salute his son with respect for his bravery, but Kitai runs to hug his father while saying he wants to work with his mother. For the first time, Cypher returns the hug and responds that he also wants to retire.